Hey guys, welcome back to the Faithful Farmer Mama. I wanted to just share with you the way that I make bread. There's lots of ways to make bread out there, and with all this stuff going on with food shortages and just not people being really sure what to do as far as making bread, I wanted to come to you today and just give you a little bit of a push in the right direction to make your own bread. So before we get started, let's just go ahead, go down, find the subscribe button. When you click that, a little bell will show up. Click the all notifications so you don't miss any of our upcoming videos. And if you're new to my channel, thanks for being here. I hope it's helpful to you. So guys, about 6 or 7 months ago, I found this awesome girl on YouTube. Her name is Lisa. She is from farmhouseonboone.com, and she had kind of posted, I don't even know how to explain it. I went in there to watch something else, and then I found that she had done sourdough. And sourdough has so many health benefits, so much more than what's out there. I also enjoy making bread, although I've always struggled with bread, never really had it rise the way it should, and I never really liked the consistency of it. It was usually pretty heavy, and even my husband didn't care for it, so I sort of stopped making bread. Well, after I found her tutorial about making sourdough, and my 14-year-old had a science lesson about yeast and making your own sourdough starter, I thought I might give this a try again. Here we are about 6 or 7 months later. Our sourdough, who is named Steven, is going strong, and we continue to make sourdough bread. One of the things I love most about sourdough bread, it can be used for all kinds of things: pancakes, waffles, bread, rolls, French toast. I actually coat it in French toast. Just about anything that has any kind of bread style to it, you can use sourdough for. You don't need yeast in order to do that, and you don't need sugar. All of the bread that's out there on the market, they add sugar for production. They say it helps yeast kind of ferment and make it explode faster, which really isn't true. You do need to let sourdough rise a little bit longer than natural yeast that you buy like in the jar. So keep that in mind when starting any of this. But I thought I would just go ahead and show you how I make bread with my sourdough starter in a bread maker. Now, if you do not have a bread maker, you can actually still make this bread in like a KitchenAid mixer or any kind of mixer that has a dough hook. My suggestion is to make sure you let the sourdough, the dough itself, rise 2 different times. You'll have to mix it originally, let it sit for about 20 minutes, 30 minutes, and then punch it down and re-mix again, and then let it sit for about an hour. Then I usually take it from my bread maker, which you then would take it from your mixer, put it into a loaf pan or some type of bread container that you want to cook in, and then let it rise another hour to an hour and a half. So it does take a lot longer, but it is so worth it in the end.
Say hello to Steven. I am putting a cup of whole wheat flour, and I had already put in a cup of water just from the tap. And I am mixing it in his bowl. Yes, we have our sourdough named, but because we feed him every day, he feels pretty human. So I just mix this cup of flour, cup of water, really, really good, making sure I get all the flour off the sides. It doesn't take very long when your starter has been around for a while to see the air bubbles and the gases and the natural yeast film or bubbles showing up in here. So if you noticed, I just finished mixing, and look, there's already some of those bubbles showing. So I keep Steven on the counter. He does sit on top of a towel, and I cover him with a cheesecloth, only because I don't want flies and things and hair getting in there. So after about 30 minutes, you can see the bubbles in this mix, and even on the side you can see the proofing actually happening. Look at them, beautiful. So I'm going to take about 1.5 cups to 2 cups and put it into my bread maker. I usually put it at the bottom, and I only use bread flour from King Arthur flour. I really like the texture of this flour, and I like that there's extra protein in it. So I'm going to add 3 cups of bread flour into my bread maker on top of my sourdough starter. If you notice, I am not much of a leveler, although I would suggest leveling your cup to make sure you're getting exactly the 3 cups that you need. After the 3 cups, you're going to put a tablespoon of butter, soft, not melted. You're going to need a teaspoon of salt. I had to use 1/2 teaspoon because my teaspoon is missing. You're also going to need 1/2 cup of milk. This is an easy read measuring cup. Pour that on top, and then I'm going to stick this inside my bread maker. Y'all, I've had this bread maker for about almost 30 years now, so I can't even point you in the right direction to get one of these, but I just make sure it's in there tight, close the lid, plug it in, and then I find the dough setting, which for me is number 7. I just hit the menu till it goes to menu 7 and then hit start. This mixing and rising will take about 1 hour and 30 minutes. Here is the dough right when I first start mixing it. I'm always so worried that it is so dry, but over time, this is probably about 5 minutes worth of mixing. Over time, it starts to develop into a smooth dough. Here, after 1.5 hours or so, this is what was left, and now I'm just waiting for the 20 minutes to rise. So while it's rising, I'm just taking regular coconut oil, and I am coating my Pampered Chef bread loaf stone. I've had this stone for, oh gosh, I've probably had it about 20 years. I bought this when I first started selling Pampered Chef. Gosh, I guess it's been about 25 years. But I just coat the outside edge, and I make sure I put it on the top so that my bread does not stick. This is stoneware, it is not metal. I then will take hot water and wet a tea towel. I really think it's important to cover your loaf when it's proofing, because the top will dry out if it does not. So all I did was just get some warm water and a tea towel, and I'm going to use this to put over top. I wring out all the excess water. My oven has a proof setting. If you don't have a proof setting, you can always just sit it on the counter or put it somewhere where it's sitting in a warm spot. So I have 1 minute left on my bread maker. I just wanted to show you how much it's risen in 20 minutes. It's beautiful. So I'm going to gently kind of coerce my bread to fall out of my loaf pan. It's important not to totally squish it and squeeze it and push all of the air out of it. You want to try to keep as much air in this bread when putting it into your new loaf pan. So I try not to push down the top. I do curl my ends under, and I'm trying to kind of make it longer so that it will fit in the bread loaf instead of a square, because my bread maker is a square. So if you notice, I just laid it in there. I didn't press it down at all. I'm going to put my hot or warm rag on top of it, and then I'm going to stick this in my oven. And it's going to be there for probably probably about an hour, hour and a half. So this was about an hour's time. I did let it rise a little bit more. At that time, I turned on my oven, 400 degrees, and let it pre-warm. 30 minutes went by. I pull out my bread, and it is so beautiful already. Now, it's really important that you put a slice down the center. You want a very, very sharp knife to do this, because if your knife is not sharp, it will actually puncture your bread and will make it collapse. If your knife is sharp, it will just slice through the very top part of the bread, not taking out the air, which is exactly what you want it to do. Just when you do this part, make sure your knife is very, very sharp. And you can put just one slice down the middle. I do like to make it pretty. And this will go into our top oven, which was set at 400 degrees for about 35, 40 minutes. This is about 15, 20 minutes into the cooking time. And then this is about 40 minutes or so. Now, I love butter, y'all. So I am going to baste the top of my bread with butter. We like the flavor that the butter gives to the bread, and it makes it really shiny. Also, because it is so brown, it can get very, very hard. So this actually keeps the top very moist. I make sure that I get inside the top cut and also on the sides so that it does kind of soak down between the stone and the bread. It actually will not make it soft and squishy, but it will give it a great flavor after it comes out and actually cools off a little bit. So here I'm just making sure that I get all the sides and the very, very top as well. I'm going to put it back in there and let it cook for about another 10 minutes. And then I'm going to take it out and let it cool. Look how beautiful, guys. So I let it sit on the counter for probably 15 minutes until it cools off enough where I can actually pull the loaf out without having to tip the pan, and it just makes it so much easier. I just take these silicone handles and sit it on a cooling rack and let it sit there for a good 20 minutes. Sometimes it's really hard, guys, to not just cut into this beautiful loaf of bread. So then when it does take time, when it does cool, I usually like to try it to make sure it's okay. So I always cut off the end, and the end is my treat. And I wanted you to see the inside of my bread, just so that you can see sourdough does not have to be flat and hard, and sourdough can be really delicious, guys. And then the baker always gets the first piece. It's warm, still a little bit on the inside, and we have some delicious butter. This will be a great addition to any meal. Well, guys, I hope this was really helpful for y'all. Maybe you can start your own sourdough or make your own bread. If you have any questions ever, all you gotta do is just let me know, private message me, or even down in the comments below. Let me know any questions you have. I'd love to answer them for you. Also, if you are new to my channel, please find the subscribe button and click the all notifications so you don't miss any of our videos. Also, give me a thumbs up because that also helps in this YouTube world. Thanks again, guys, and we'll see you next time.